Tonight, we dive into some of the most chilling Craigslist discoveries, stories that begin with a simple purchase, a routine transaction, an exchange that should have been forgettable, but instead unravel into something deeply unsettling. A storage unit meticulously prepared for a return that never happened. A collection of VHS tapes documenting a man's slow descent into paranoia. A Craigslist user hiding something sinister at the bottom of the box. Are you ready? Let's begin. Story number 1. Unsettling discovery. I moved into my new place last month, and like most people trying to save a few bucks, I checked Craigslist for free moving boxes. A guy a few miles away was giving some away, and it seemed like a no-brainer. The ad was short and to the point: free moving boxes. Take them. I messaged him just to confirm they were still available. He responded almost immediately with an address and a single word: yes. No name, no small talk, just that. The address was odd. Not a house, not an apartment complex, just the back of a gas station on the outskirts of town. I figured maybe the guy worked there and was trying to offload some extra boxes. It made sense in the moment. I drove out late in the afternoon. The gas station was there, a single-story building with a cracked pavement out front. Around back, past a rusted dumpster, was a stack of flattened boxes leaning against the wall, exactly as described. No one was around, no cars in the lot, just the faint hum of the gas station lights. It felt off. But I was in a hurry, and free was free. As I grabbed the boxes, I noticed something tucked behind them, an old yellowed envelope wedged between the stack and the wall. It wasn't mine, but curiosity got the better of me. I pulled it out, feeling the weight of something inside, and before I could second-guess myself, I took it with me. I told myself I'd check inside when I got home. My gut told me I'd picked up something I wasn't supposed to. When I finally opened it, Polaroids spilled onto my kitchen table. At first, they were nothing. Grainy, underexposed shots of empty rooms, dark hallways, unmade beds. But then I saw the people. Sleeping people. A man slumped in an armchair, his head tilted back, mouth slightly open. A woman curled on her side, blankets tangled around her. They all had one thing in common. None of them looked aware they were being photographed. I flipped through them faster, my breath catching. The last few were even worse, closer, more invasive. A man in a dingy motel bed, sheets half pulled down. A woman lying on a thin mattress, the camera angle tilted, as if the photographer had been stepping back, caught in the act. And the very last photo. It wasn't just a picture of someone sleeping. It was a picture of someone in the process of waking up. Their eyes half open, unfocused, still lost in sleep. But their face looked wrong, confused, scared. Like they had heard something, like they had felt someone standing there. I shoved the photos back into the envelope, heart hammering. My apartment suddenly felt too open, the windows too bare. I grabbed my phone, pulled up Craigslist to check the ad, but it was already gone, just vanished, like it had never been there. I went back to the gas station the next day, more out of instinct than anything else. The space behind the station was empty, the dumpster overflowing, but nothing stacked beside it. I went inside, asked the bored-looking clerk if they knew anything about someone giving away boxes here. He just stared at me. "Nobody gives stuff away here, man." I left, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I had taken something that wasn't meant to be found. I thought about reporting it, but what would I even say? That I found a bunch of pictures in a box, that some stranger might have taken them. There were no addresses, no names, nothing to tie them to anyone. And I still wonder, who took those photos? Where were they taken? And worst of all, who was supposed to find them? Story number 2, Storage Unit Mystery. I wasn't expecting much when I went to that storage unit auction. I'd been watching those reality shows where people find crazy valuable stuff, but in real life, it's usually just boxes of junk and old furniture no one wants. Still, I figured it was worth a shot. The place was about 30 minutes outside of town, a rundown storage facility. The auctioneer didn't waste time. He cut the locks, lifted the doors, and let everyone take a quick peek before bidding started. Most of the units were filled with the usual: a couple of moldy mattresses, busted dressers, boxes of who knows what. But one caught my attention. It wasn't special, not at first glance. A few plastic bins, an old recliner, some dusty shelves, but something about it felt untouched, like someone had packed up their life, set it down here, and never came back. I won the bid for $150. The first hour of digging was just sorting through someone's old life. Clothes, kitchenware, photo albums, stuff you'd expect to find in a storage unit. The photos were old, mostly from the 90s. A lot of them were of a man in his late 30s, always wearing the same leather jacket. I figured he was the owner, but there were no photos of anyone else. No family, no friends, just him, always alone, always looking slightly away from the camera. It was a time capsule. Everything inside was meticulously packed, labeled, and organized. Old clothes, books, VHS tapes. And then there were the notebooks, dozens of them, stacked neatly in a plastic bin, along with a small locked cash box. I almost didn't open them, but curiosity won. The first few pages of the notebook seemed normal, rambling thoughts, daily routines, mundane observations. But as I flipped through, the tone changed. The handwriting became erratic, words scratched out, lines rewritten. The man who wrote these was unraveling. He never mentioned his name, just referred to himself in vague, detached ways. But he talked a lot about them. The people watching him. The ones he swore were following him. He wrote about their faces in the crowd, their eyes peeking from darkened windows. He was certain they knew what he had done. But what had he done? He never said. Just that it was bad, unforgivable, that he could never stop thinking about it, that he couldn't live with it. There was one clear theme in his diary: preparation. He wrote extensively about his plan to disappear, the steps he needed to take, the documents he had to destroy. It was all leading up to the moment in 2012. He was going to vanish for 10 years. In 2022, he'd come back, except I was standing in his storage unit in 2024, and he never returned. I finally pried open the cash box, half expecting it to be empty. Instead, I found a wallet stuffed with old bills and an ID. The name wasn't familiar. It matched the photos in the storage. The same man, always alone, always slightly turned away from the camera. I assumed he was dead. Overdose, suicide, maybe even a mugging gone wrong. But when I looked him up, there was nothing. No missing persons report, no obituary, no news articles. Except, buried in one of the notebooks, I found an update. 2018. 6 years after he disappeared, he came back, just once. The entry was brief, almost frantic, like he had scribbled it down in a rush. I made a mistake. I saw one today. I swear, the same face. After all this time, I was right. They never let go. He never wrote again. I don't know what happened to him after that, but the longer I stayed in that unit, the more uneasy I felt. His notes were full of paranoia, but the details were consistent, too consistent. And then there were the pills. Dozens of bottles, all expired, all for anxiety, depression, paranoia. He had tried to medicate whatever haunted him, but it hadn't worked. And then there were the tapes. I had assumed they were old home movies or recorded TV shows, but no. He had filmed himself. The first tape was dated a few days before he disappeared. The footage was shaky, like he was setting up the camera in a hurry. He sat down in a chair, staring directly into the lens, expressionless. For a few minutes, he didn't move, didn't blink much, just sat there. I didn't know what that meant. The tapes got worse. Some were just footage of him pacing, checking the windows, muttering to himself. He was rehearsing something, practicing his story. Maybe for the police, maybe for someone else. But he never went through with it. The last tape was different. The camera was set up the same way, pointed at the chair. But this time, he wasn't sitting in it. The tape ran for another 20 minutes, filming the empty chair. Then it cut to static. I don't know what happened to him. I don't know if he ever made it out of town, if his paranoia was real, or if it consumed him. I don't even know if what he feared was a real person, or just the guilt of whatever he had done. But I do know one thing. He was supposed to come back, and he never did. Story number 3. Job that didn't exist. I don't know what I applied for. I don't know who they were, but I know that something wasn't right. This happened 3 years ago. I need to get this off my chest because to this day, I still don't know how much danger I was actually in. It started with a Craigslist ad. I was broke, desperate, and sending out resumes to any job listing I could find. Most didn't respond. The ones that did wanted experience I didn't have. Then I found it. The title was vague. Seeking reliable workers. No experience needed. High pay. The pay was absurd. $50 an hour, full-time, no degree required, no prior work history necessary. The only job description was general labor, will train. No company name, no contact person. Just a generic Gmail address and a location for interviews. Some warehouse on the outskirts of town. It was weird, yeah. But I figured, scam or not, I don't have anything to lose. I sent an email. It was a single sentence. Hi, I'm interested. When can I come in? A response came within minutes. Interview tomorrow, 10 a.m., Holden Industrial Road. That was it. No signature, no details, just that. And against all better judgment, I went. I took the bus to the address the next morning. The place was wrong. It wasn't a business. There were no signs, no logos, just an old windowless gray building with a cracked parking lot and a single metal door. The kind you see on abandoned structures, the kind that usually has a big no trespassing sign on it. Except this one was open. Inside was worse. The lights were dim, buzzing faintly overhead. There were no desks, no chairs, no reception area, just a vast empty space with stains on the floor. A small group of people stood in the middle of the room, 6 of us in total. A man stepped forward, tall, too thin, dressed in a crisp black suit that didn't fit his frame. His head was shaved, his skin pale, his face stretched in a smile that never reached his small, sunken eyes. He looked like a funeral director that had forgotten how to act around the living. He didn't introduce himself, didn't ask for names. He just observed us for a long moment, his gaze moving from person to person, like he was committing something to memory. Then, he turned and gestured for us to follow. We were led down a long, narrow hallway. The room he brought us to was completely empty, except for 7 folding chairs arranged in a semicircle. The air was thick, heavy in a way I couldn't explain, like we had just stepped inside a place where the oxygen had been sitting still for too long. We sat. He remained standing. Then, without preamble, he began to ask questions. Not normal interview questions, not "where have you worked before?" or "what are your strengths?" but stranger, unsettling ones. Are you willing to commit to something greater than yourself? If selected, will you agree to never speak of what you see? Do you consider yourself an obedient person? It didn't feel like an interview. None of us spoke after we left. We avoided eye contact as we walked out of the warehouse, scattering in different directions. I kept telling myself I was overthinking it, that it was just an unorthodox hiring process, but something about the whole thing felt off. That night, I got an email. Congratulations. You've been selected. Report back tomorrow at 7 a.m. Do not be late. I didn't go. I don't know why I chickened out. I was desperate for money. I had no reason to turn it down, but something about it felt wrong, so I stayed home. The next morning, I received another email. You were expected at 7 a.m. Respond immediately. Then 10 minutes later, another email arrived. Failure to report is a violation of the agreement. Final warning. I never agreed to anything. I never signed a contract. But something about the wording made me uncomfortable. It felt less like a rejection and more like a threat. I deleted the email and tried to forget about it. That should have been the end of it. But a year later, I got curious. I went back to that address, just to see. There was nothing there. Not an empty warehouse, not a new business, nothing. As if it was never there. Where that building had been, there was an empty lot. I checked Google Maps, pulled up the old street view. The warehouse was still there. I don't know what happened. I don't know who they were.